So I would start with some keywords. We have four
Very
keywords.
good.
Investigator, that's a person who conducts statistical investigation. Basically, एक ऐसा person जो आपका data collect करता है. Enumerator is a person who helps the investigator in collection of data. जो investigator को assist करता है, help करता है उसे. Respondent again is a person from whom the information is collected. जो आपको आंसर कर रहा है आपके क्वेश्चंस या फिर जो आपको डेटा दे रहा है. और स्टैटिस्टिकल यूनिट्स आर द आइटम्स ऑन विच मेजरमेंट्स आर टेकन. उसके बाद आता है हमारा पॉपुलेशन, विच कैन ऑल्सो बी टर्म्ड एज यूनिवर्स. इट रेफर्स टू द टोटलिटी ऑफ आइटम्स अंडर स्टडी. Sample is nothing but a group or a section
Okay.
of population from which the information is to be obtained. Sample के अंदर good sample is smaller than the full population, but it is capable of providing accurate information about the population. And the advantage it costs less and lesser time is taken. Now, data, it can be classified into two types, primary and secondary data. So, determining the methods of data collection takes into account a number of factors: object and nature of inquiry, availability of financial resources, availability of time, accuracy required, collecting agencies. Like अगर आपके पास financial resources ज़्यादा नहीं है, time ज़्यादा नहीं है, so you have no choice but to go with secondary data, जो data किसी और ने collect किया है. But if you have ample of time, you have enough financial resources, your agency is strong enough, you collect data which is a fresh, which you can use. It's more accurate. So starting by primary data, they are original in number. The data is afresh, that is, it is collected for the first time. And this is collected by conducting an inquiry or an investigation. They are the first hand information somebody has. There are 5 ways in which the data can be collected: direct personal observation, indirect oral interview, information through agencies, mailed questionnaires, and schedules sent through enumerator. Now, coming to direct personal observation, that's the very first method of primary data collection. Here, data is collected by the investigator personally. The factor is that the investigator, they should be a keen observer, tactful, and courteous in behavior. It provides greater accuracy, useful where field of inquiry is not large or some confidential data is to be collected. To do a direct personal observation, a great deal of time is required. The investigator actually asks or cross-examines the informant and collects necessary information in a direct personal observation. It has its own merits and demerits. Merits being its original data is collected, we can have data that is reliable and true, a high degree of accuracy can be aimed. Because of personal approach, response would be more encouraging. But it has again some demerits, like it's very costly as well as time consuming. We have to collect data according to the convenience of the informant. An untrained investigator will not bring results. It is unsuitable with a large area. Coming to the next, indirect oral interview, the investigator approaches the witness or third parties who are in touch with the informant. It is suitable when the area to be studied is large, and it is useful when direct information cannot be obtained and is mostly used by governments. Like the police department generally adopts this method to get clues of thefts, riots, murders, etc. The enumerator here interviews the people who are directly or indirectly connected with the problem under the study. It again has its own merits and demerits. It is simple and convenient. It saves time, money, and labor. It can be used in the investigation of a large area. Adequate information can be had. Some demerits are as follows: the information cannot be relied because of absence of direct contact. Interview with an improper man will spoil the results. In order to get the real position, a sufficient number of people are to be interviewed. The careless attitude of the informant will affect the degree of accuracy. Moving forward, we have information through agencies. So the local agents are appointed to collect information. The informants are generally called correspondents. It is used when the information is to be obtained at regular intervals from a wide area. They do it according to their own ways and tastes, obviously. The suitability for this is in those cases where the information to be obtained at regular intervals from a wide area. Going to the demerits and merits of information through agencies, extensive information can be had. It is the most cheap and economical method. Speedy information is possible. It is useful.
May I interrupt, Kashish?
Yes, ma'am.
Why your slides are not getting changed?
Ma'am, are they not getting changed? I'm changing them regularly.
मेरे में तो चेंज नहीं हो रहा. एक मिनट रुको.
Ma'am, it is stuck. Yeah, it is stuck.
Yeah, it is stuck, beta. Yeah, that's true. It's stuck.
One second.
Slide. समझ के दीजिए ना थोड़ा.
1 second. Let me try again.
Yeah.
Is it visible now?
Yeah, now it is visible. It is visible now.
Ma'am, where did it got stuck?
It was initially stuck only. The very first slide. It did not move on.
Okay, I will just show you the slides again and then I will move on. Is that
fine? No problem. You have already explained it. It's okay. Continue from the slide where you were explaining.
Here. Like these are the slides of what I have already explained, primary data.
And these slides you prepared yourself?
Yes, ma'am, I prepared them myself.
Areva, very good.
So I was here explaining this merits and demerits of the indirect information through agencies.
Very good.
So it is useful where information is read regularly. The demerits would be this information may be biased, data may not be original, uniformity cannot be maintained. Actually, sorry, this needs to be changed. Degree of accuracy cannot be maintained. Moving forward to the last thing is the mailed questionnaires. A questionnaire consists of a list of questions pertaining to the inquiry is prepared. This method is adopted by research workers, private individuals, non-official agencies, and state and central governments. This method is appropriate in cases where informants are spread over a large area. Some extra information. The questionnaires is sent to the respondents. There are blank spaces for answers. A covering letter is also sent along with the questionnaire, responding the respondent to extend their full cooperation by giving the correct replies. This method is appropriate in cases where informants are spread over a wide area. And there are only a few merits and demerits of this particular method. It is economical, saves money, labor, and time. It can be efficiently used when the area of investigation is large. Demerits being, there is a long delay in receiving questionnaires duly filled in. We cannot be sure about the accuracy and reliability of the data. Moving forward to the next method, we have secondary data. Secondary data are those data which have been already collected and analyzed by some earlier agency, and later the same data has been used by a different agency. Here, we only have two types, published sources and unpublished sources. Published sources are international publications, for example, UNO, IMF, etc. Official publications of central and state government, for example, Reserve Bank of India, Census of India, etc. Semi-official publications would include institutions such as panchayats, municipal corporations, journals and newspapers. There are obviously a lot of newspapers and journals, Economic Times, Times of India, etc. Publications of research institutes, like institutes conduct their individual research. And unpublished sources, data which are collected but are not published anywhere, are the unpublished sources of data. There are various sources of unpublished data. They are the records maintained by various government and private offices, the researches carried out by individual research scholars in university or research institutions. And this would be the last thing, the difference, the basic difference between primary and secondary data with the basis of differentiation, meaning it refers to first-hand data collected by researcher himself. Secondary data is the data collected by someone else earlier. Primary data is the real-time data. It is secondary data, it's past data, it's already collected. In primary data, process is like very involved, and in secondary data, you can quickly access it through someone else, so it's quick and easy. So if you talk about sources, in primary data, surveys, personal interviews, etc. Secondary data, books, journals, government publications, etc. Primary data is very expensive to do, whereas secondary data is economically more good. And collection time for primary data is quite long compared to secondary data. It's short. Specification, if we speak, it is specific to the needs of researcher. And in secondary data, the data may or may not be specific to the researcher's need. Accuracy and reliability could be more in primary data as compared to secondary data. Thank you. Was it appropriate?
Kashish, yours is done?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Now I request. I'll just come back to you, Kashish. The next one is Paridhi. Are you
Yes,
there,
ma'am.
Paridhi? Please
Yes,
continue.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Is my screen visible?
Yes.
Yes. One sec. Yeah. So good morning, everyone. My topic for today is census and sampling methods. Collection of data is a crucial step to have a broader understanding of economics. So, with the view of statistics, there are two approaches to collect data. First one being the census method, and the second one being the sample method. The census method is the procedure of systematically acquiring and recording information about the members of a given population. Also, census method is that method in which data is collected covering every item of the universe or population relating to the problem under investigation. It is regularly occurring in official count of a particular population. It's also known as 100% enumeration or complete survey. It is useful when there is a lot of detailing in the study, or it's a very intensive study and the topics or the area is limited. So, what is the census method suitable for? A census method is suitable particularly for statistical investigations which have small size of the population, because in the census method you go and ask and verify from each and every person. So it won't be you won't be able to do it with a lot of people. It has to be a very small size of a population to conduct an accurate census. The second condition being widely diverse items in the population. You need a very diverse population, maybe in the terms of gender, religion, caste, any basis, to have an accurate survey, because the more the diversity, the more accurate the results you get, or the more detailing you get. The third suitable situation would be requirement of intensive examination of different items. So census method is used when you need the very basic details or very intense details of each and every situation. That is where the census method should be used. The fourth one being high degree of accuracy and reliability. Because it is verified from each and every person, it is very accurate and reliable. Coming to the merits of this method, again, it's reliable and accurate. Also, it's less biased. The results in the census method are less biased because of the absence of investigators' discretion. the investigator does not have any say in the survey or in the census method. The third one being extensive information. Information collected through the census method is quite extensive and therefore more meaningful because all items of a universe have been examined. For example, population census in India gives exhaustive information relating to the number of people in different part of the country, their age and sex composition, education status, occupation, and every single thing. The fourth merit being study of diverse characteristics. By using census method, one can study diverse characteristics of the universe. The fifth one is study of complex investigation. When items in a universe are of a complex nature and it is necessary to study each and every item, then only census method can produce the desired results. Data on countries' populations are hence collected by this method. The sixth merit being indirect investigation. Census method can be successfully used in indirect investigations relating to unemployment, poverty, corruption, and many more issues. Coming to the demerits of the census method, first one, it's costly. Census method is very costly and it's not used for general inquiries or investigations. Only the government or some big institutions can afford to use this method, and that too for specific purposes only. Also, you need large manpower. Census method requires large manpower. Training of a large number of enumerators becomes essential, which is a very difficult process. One such difficult process was at the time when polio vaccination was being circulated throughout the country. A lot of manpower had to be trained for that. Sorry, the polio drops, not the vaccination. The third demerit being non-suitable for large investigations. Yes, this is not suitable for very large investigations because if the universe comprises a large number of items, then it may not be able to possibly cover each and every item. So it becomes practically inoperative in such situations. So this was a brief overview of the census method. The second approach that we have towards data collection is sample method. So sample method basically is that method which is widely used in our day-to-day life because the data collected is about the sample on a group of items taken for the population for examination and conclusions drawn on their basis. A sample method is a subset of individuals from a larger population. Sampling means selecting a group that you will actually collect data from in your research. What is the sample method suitable for? The sample method is particularly suitable when the population is very large because then you can select a certain number of people from that large population and and get your results on their basis. The second situation being very high degree of accuracy is not needed. If in data accuracy is not that important, sample method can be used. Intensive examination of diverse items is not required. The fourth condition being when different units of the universe are broadly similar to each other, which means the results are nearly same. Some of the merits of the sample method are, first of all, it's very economical. The sample method of investigation is economical because only some units of population are needed and are studied. Second, it's time saving because there are limited number of items to be investigated. This is time saving. Third one, identification of error. Because only a limited number of items are covered, errors can be easily identified. To that extent, sampling method shows better accuracy. Fourth one being large investigations. Sample method is more feasible in situations of large investigations than census method, which generally involves unaffordable cost. When there is a large number of population, you need to to use the census, you need to use the sample method only, because the census method would be too costly to conduct. The fifth merit being administrative convenience. There is a convenience in handling a limited number of items. More capable and efficient investigators can be appointed. The sixth merit being it's more scientific also. According to R. Fisher, sample method is more scientific because the sample data can be conveniently investigated from various angles. Now coming to some demerits of this method. First of all, it's a partial method. It's partial because all the conditions or all the items of investigations are not involved in the sample method. It takes only some conditions and some people or items, which results to bias or partial conclusions on the study. The second one being wrong conclusion. If selected sample does not represent the characteristics of the universe, the study may end up with wrong conclusions. The third one being difficulty in selecting representative sample. It is not very easy to select a sample which would represent the characteristics of an entire population, because obviously there are a lot of diversities in individuals, so it is very difficult to select a representative sample which has all characteristics. The fourth one being difficulty in framing a sample. Sometimes the universe may be so diverse that it becomes very difficult or nearly impossible to frame a sample. The fifth demerit being specialized knowledge. Sampling involves a set of technical procedures. One must have the technical knowledge of choosing a representative sample from the universe. People who are well versed with all the techniques of sampling are not easily available because of the lack of skill based education. Also, there are some essentials that a sample needs to have. The first one is representative. A sample must represent all characteristics of the universe. It is possible only when each unit of the universe stands equal chances of being selected in the sample. Only then will the results be non-biased and non-partial. The second one being independent. All units of a sample must be independent of each other. In other words, inclusion of one item in the sample should not depend upon the inclusion of some other item of the universe. Um, the third one being homogeneity. If more than one sample are selected from a universe, these samples should be homogeneous and not contradictory to each other. They should be similar. Fourth one being adequacy. The number of items in the sample should be fairly adequate so that the reliable conclusions are drawn covering the characteristics of the universe as a whole. So this was an overview of the sample method. Now there are two types of sampling techniques. One is called the random or probable. The other one is non-probable or non-random. Now even these have furthermore classifications. So briefly, I'll tell about random sampling. It's a method of choosing a sample of observations from a population to make assumptions about the population. It is also called probability sampling. The primary types of this sampling are random, stratified, cluster, and multi-stage. It may be done in two ways. One is the lottery method and the other one is tables of random method. Now, lottery method has paper slips made from each item. These slips are shuffled in a box and impartially some of the slips are drawn to form a sample of the universe. Basically, the chit system. Lottery method is basically the chit system, and table of random numbers are some statisticians, have prepared a set of tables called tables of random numbers. A sample is framed with reference of these tables. Of all figures, Tippett has involved 10,400 numbers comprising of 4 units each, and Tippett's table is the most widely used. For use of this method, all of the universe are arranged in an order. Then using Tippett's table, the required number of items are selected as needed for a sample. Then we have non-random sampling. Non-random sampling is a sampling technique where sample selection is based on factors other than the random chance. In other words, it's biased in nature. The sample will be based on the convenience, experience, or judgment of the researcher. As I said in the census method, that census method is very fair because it does not have the say of the researcher. But in sampling, there is a very large say of the researcher. That's why it's a bit more biased. And it can be done in 5 ways: purposive or deliberate sampling, stratified or mixed sampling, systematic sampling, quota sampling, and convenience sampling. And lastly, there is a brief difference between, or a comparison between the two. So in census, data collection is about everyone or everything, whereas here it's for a specific number of people and the results are drawn according to them. There is a high degree of accuracy in census, whereas the degree of accuracy is not there in sample survey. But the census method is costly and time consuming, whereas sample method does not cost that much and the data can be collected at a greater speed. So this is the brief overview of the chapter. Thank you so much.
Beautifully explained, you both. I'm really glad that I have students like you. Thank you, children. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes. Now, am I audible to you people?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yeah. See, this is the way of presenting your presentation. Now, Kashish and Paridhi Bambani, you
Paridhi.
send me your, yeah, Paridhi, yes. Both of you send me your passport size photograph. I'll just try to make a certificate and send it in the group. Okay, beautifully explained both the content. Now, the next one is utility analysis and indifference curve approach. अब इसका PPT कौन बताएगा? सामने से आना. In the same manner, the way Kashish and Paridhi had explained, beautifully explained. The same manner, I want the other students also to participate. This will be done on Saturday, not tomorrow. This will be done on Saturday. And then I don't want to remind you people. I don't want to remind you. You people must know that this much we have to do. So you have to be ready with that. Okay. Utility and yes, Kashish.
Sorry, ma'am, my net went away. Could you repeat what do we have to send? Like I lost you there.
You both have to send me your passport size photograph.
Okay, ma'am.
WhatsApp कर दो मुझे, तो I'll just try to make some certificate type and I'll put it in the group. Some appreciation for you both.
Thank you, ma'am.
I will try to make it because I'm not sure. I'm not that much very friendly with the this all work, but still I'll take Himanshu sir's help and I'll make a certificate or some appreciation by keeping a pics on that, pasting your pics on that. Okay? And now, yes, who's going to take utility analysis for Saturday? Gurnur?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Paridhi, this is the first presentation you people had given, so please make a list of it. Paridhi had given census and sample. Kashish had given primary data and secondary data, date and the topic. Done. And now this list you will be maintaining, Paridhi. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Paridhi, you are also already maintaining the attendance sheet, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, then let Kashish do this work. Kashish?
I will take up, ma'am. No, not an issue. I'll take up the.
Yeah, you maintain the list. Who has given what, and then you have to remind me on that particular day, ma'am, today it is a presentation of these two students, and weekly we are going to have a presentation, and on the basis of this presentation, and keep these presentation, because when I will be going for the 10 marks assessment and another 10 marks assessment, I'm going to consider all this. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. Now, Gurnur has taken the responsibility of making PPT of utility analysis. Now, the next one is indifference curve approach. Because see, if you will not come by yourself, I have to give the topic then to a particular student. So better you yourself. Yeah, Samrit Kaur. Okay, Samrit Kaur. The next student is Samrit Kaur, who's going to take up the topic for Saturday. If suppose we are not working on Saturday, then it will be on, I think Saturday or Friday. Friday we have a block periods, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So we'll keep it on Friday, not on Saturday. ठीक है? We'll keep it on Friday, so that दोनों का जो है हो जाए. So it will be on Friday. I'll be here in the school only, and we will be conducting it. Okay, Samrit Kaur is going to take care of indifference curve approach, and Gurnoor is going to take care of utility approach. Okay. Okay,
Yes,
I think time's up now. You people can leave. Thank you very much, Paridhi and Kashish. Once again, beautifully explained the content. मुझसे भी ज़्यादा अच्छे से explain किया. I must appreciate that. Thank you very much. God bless you all. Take care of yourself. Just a minute, मैं एक बार देख लेती हूँ. Mohit Chaudhary had already done.
Thank you,
Thank you,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Thank you, beta.